Hey everyone, welcome to the Flirting with Travel podcast. I'm Lexee,
I am Misty.
and today we're talking about Non-Rev. Hope you enjoy.
This episode, we are going to talk about the one thing people probably are trying to figure out. How could you do 26, 24
Yes.
countries in about 3 years?
And now, it was super easy when I was living in Japan because when you're already on that side of the world, everything's
Right.
super accessible.
Right.
And that gave me the travel bug. And then I
Right.
got back to the States, and you start looking at flights, and the closest things you have, obviously you've got like Canada and Mexico.
Right.
But everything else, even like South America, which you think is super accessible,
It's
is
not.
still like 12 hours away.
Because of the way the airlines in America hub. You're going to hub on the
Yes.
East Coast.
So you're basically flying all the way across, then to go down, which is super inefficient. But for me, what's allowed me to travel, particularly at that pace, is working for an airline and getting to travel non-rev.
And non-rev is short for,
Non-revenue passenger.
which is...
So ultimately what it means is that you're traveling like not a real passenger, but instead of like buying your ticket and paying fare, you're not paying fare, but you are paying for your taxes on other airlines. So if I'm flying on my airline, it's totally free, but if I fly on other airlines, and there's only select ones that I can fly with. Delta, I'm looking at you. Refuse to let us travel with you, that's fine. Whatever.
Right. So let me clarify. Non-rev is standby.
It is.
But are there different levels in standby?
There are. So you got like your basic standby, which it starts at the top where you have a passenger who's maybe on an oversold flight and they're just getting moved to the next flight. And that's like your creme de la creme of standby because it means that you're going to get on the next flight.
Of course, I paid for my ticket. I want to.
Yeah, and I understand that. Then you have the next tier, which is the person who works for the specific airline that you're flying. They're the next tier of standby. So if someone doesn't show up for their flight or the flight's not fully booked, you get on.
Okay.
After that, then you have your buddy passes, your retirees for that airline.
Okay.
And then way down at the bottom, you have people that work for another airline.
Right.
And that's the space that I get to live in, which is why I can't really relate to like your bougie travel stories, because for me, like when I get to see the inside of an aircraft, even in economy, I'm like, blessings.
So I have well, you have retirees. Do retirees go over travel, what is called buddy passes? Or do buddy passes take precedence over retiree?
Buddy passes go first.
What?
Retirees are pretty low on the totem pole, considering that you had to give a good chunk of your life to that place.
I didn't even know. Do retirees still get buddy passes?
Ooh, I don't think they do get buddy passes. Like, their days are done. They get to fly.
That's it.
I mean, it's a benefit.
That's a nice benefit. I mean, seeing at the tiers. Okay, so you fly non-rev. You're at the bottom of it because if you fly your airline, you're number 2 under standby.
Yes.
But if you fly another airline, you're at the bottom. So do you get to fly any airline?
No, not really. So it's basically who your airline has relationships with. And like when you get some of the big legacy carriers, they will only fly with people that are in their group. So like the Sky Mile members or the Sky Mile airlines and carriers, yeah, they're happy to do reciprocity with each other. And what is American a part of? Their first...
Oh, One World.
One World. I was supposed to be like, First World? I was like, that doesn't seem right. Yeah, but One World, they fly with each other. Then what you'll find is that smaller carriers are able to kind of get relationships with some of them, but not all of them.
So they're not part of like One World, Star Alliance, Sky Team.
Then you can still have relationships with them. Like, for instance, I have benefits on United, but I don't have benefits on Delta or British Airways.
Trust me, British Airways is trash. You're not missing much.
But ironically, Air France is part of that, and I do have benefits with them.
They are Sky Team, but they're much better than British Airways.
You know, I have enjoyed flying Air France, minus making me check my bag in Paris.
I like them just because they have 5 different categories of seating options.
You know, I can't say I relate to that because I'm sure I was in the 5th category.
Okay, so you've been able to fly. How much normally do you spend? Like on average?
It depends on where you're going, so it'll be based on miles.
Okay.
Or it'll be based on the tax of that place, and sometimes it's a mixture of both. On average, if I'm flying from here to Europe round trip, like $400.
Okay, well, that's not bad. If you don't get a glitch fare, which is a completely different category we can talk about, or you don't get a special, or you're not flying one of the budget airlines internationally, which they've been going out of business like crazy, so I wouldn't recommend that.
I mean, hashtag been there.
This is true. Did you non-rev on that, or was that?
So I was non-revved. So I was supposed
So you were
to be
non-revving on who?
I was non-revving on Adria Airlines from Switzerland to Slovenia.
Okay.
However, even if I had bought my ticket, I
Right.
still would have been equally screwed.
How much did it cost a non-rev? $30?
$80 round trip.
How much would the ticket have cost?
Probably something similar. Well, here's the benefit with that. So let's say I non-rev on Spirit.
Right.
It's probably going to be the same as me buying a confirmed ticket with a little bit of notice. However, if I non-rev, I get 1 free checked bag and 1 free carry-on. Whereas if you don't non-rev and you have to buy your ticket, now you're having to pay for your carry-on and pay for your checked bag.
All right.
Which is going to rack up the price.
Right. This is true. So I guess that's the benefit. Okay, so your typical expense from Vegas all the way to, we'll just cite London, right? $400 total.
Probably about, yeah.
And I would say a ticket from Vegas to London.
Oh no, I can tell you. Because every time I'm going somewhere, I think, ooh, I don't want to like play this dangerous game of non-rev, which we'll talk about how fun that roulette game is. But I think, you know what, I'm just going to buy my ticket. Like, let's say when I was going to Kuwait, I was like, you know what, I'm just buying my ticket. I know I want to get there to see her. And the ticket was about $2,000.
Sounds about right.
And I thought, well, that's okay. I don't mind gambling in this way, so let's try it out. Besides, how am I living? If you're not living your life on the edge, you're taking up too much space. So,
I mean, we all have different things for travel. Apparently, you have a flexible schedule that allows you the benefit of losing a couple days if it didn't go your way.
it's not necessarily that. One thing you have to stop doing is making real plans. Because, no, you really do have to put, like, a day's buffer in there.
Right.
So, I don't really usually make plans my very first day because I think if I don't get there, and then I won't make plans the next morning, I try and wait till later in the afternoon because I figure maybe I'll make it, or make cheaper plans that I'm willing to let go of if I can't make it.
I consider non-rev, because you and Diami both fly non-rev a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It is really like travel roulette. It is like saying I am going to take a trip and fuck it, I'm going to see how the odds are.
Mm-hmm.
And I really find it funny that the only way to measure if you're going to make a flight is a happy face.
Oh my goodness.
A straight face, or a red, frowny face.
Whoever thought of that is, I don't know, diabolical, and it feels like they were trying to make fun of somebody. So when you're booking your ticket, now you can only book within 30 days of your departure. So it's not like I can say, oh, I want to go in 6 months and I'm going to book my non-rev ticket. So when you're booking, it'll, like, you find your airline, you find your dates, and then it'll just give you a bunch of flights, and it just gives you a little green smiley face, a red frowny face, and a yellow straight line to indicate how full the flight is. The problem is that I've had green smiley faces that I didn't make the flight, and I've had red frowny faces where I did. And so, I don't know, there's not much to say about that because you never know how it's going to go. Like, literally, you do not know if the non-rev gods are going to smile on you on that day.
Hashtag non-rev gods. So do you how do you feel confident in booking travel? Because, right, when you went to Switzerland, well, okay, you were supposed to go to Slovenia, right?
Yeah.
And then, did you book everything before that?
In Slovenia?
Yeah.
Yes and no. I booked my hotel. Well, it wasn't a hotel. I booked an apartment through booking.com. I booked that beforehand because Slovenia doesn't have a lot of options as far as accommodations.
Shocking.
And I know, right? But as I was getting closer, they were filling up, and I thought, I don't want to be staying in a hostel Because the one thing that was open, and it sounded kind of like a cool experience, I just didn't want it, was this hostel that's in an old prison.
Is that where that is?
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you, but no thank you. But I would be really cool.
I would.
If that's the hotel they changed.
Is it?
They did a prison and they changed it into hotel rooms, right? Yes. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that was in Sylvania.
Yeah, I would totally go like check it out. I just don't know if I'd want to stay there.
I mean, like, why are you afraid it's haunted?
Well, I don't know about the energy there. I don't know about something that makes me feel like I could be locked in.
Right.
I mean, like, that's taking Hostel to a whole other thing. Can you imagine if you had, like, a Hostel the movie type situation in a hotel that used to be a prison and you knew damn well before you stayed there that it was a prison?
I mean, really just going all the way with it.
I'm just saying, you're like, what did you expect to happen when you decided to stay in this place that was previously a prison?
Room
and then
service. Suddenly
you get locked in.
I mean, I thought that my sheets would get changed, not that I would get locked in. Okay, so how much did it cost to go to Sylvania from Vegas?
Altogether, probably like $4 something.
That's pretty cheap.
It is.
And so do you always decide within the 30 days or do you kind of decide?
I'll know beforehand. Like, I'll know where I'm going, and typically what I'll do is just go onto Google Flights and figure out what my flight options are.
What happens if you, like, don't make it? Because, I mean, like, sometimes when we travel, I can't think of when we went to Thailand together. So you and Diambe had flew over. Mm-hmm. You were in Cathay Pacific.
And we were in Hong Kong.
And then you got stuck in Hong Kong.
And let me tell you, Hong Kong, the way they do theirs, or at least the way Cathay Pacific in Hong Kong does it, is that they won't let you continue on through security. So normally what will happen is that you walk up to the ticket counter when you're checking in, and you get a little temporary boarding pass. Mm-hmm. And it just lets you get through security. And then basically you're sitting at the gate, and people start boarding, and you're just, like, looking like a dog that may have been kicked at the person taking them, like, please, sir, give me my ticket. And that's kind of what it feels like, because you don't want to be that, like, needy person, but you are awkwardly like, hey, I'm over here. I'm Non-Rev. Am I going to get on this flight? Because some people are really good. They'll be like, oh, your chances look good. Just wait 10 minutes. Other people will be like, I don't know. We can't tell until it's over. Mm-hmm. It's like, but you know how many people are booked and how many people have checked in. And I'm already at the airport, so you could at least tell me if I need to start figuring out options. But that's normal.
But Abu Dhabi was like that too, though.
It was. So there are like 3 airports I've been to that I don't necessarily want to travel through again that will not give you your boarding pass. Mexico City, Hong Kong, and Abu Dhabi. So they make you go sit outside the gate, and they won't even give you a temporary pass until they can give you a real pass. But what's fun is that, like, leaving Hong Kong, when they were doing that, I had like 20 minutes to get through customs, security, and to my gate.
But team carry-on, hashtag, and limited liquids, you were able to make it.
No, I mean, like, barely. I'm standing in this long line. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my time is almost up. So finally, I just start telling people, I was like, excuse me, my flight's coming soon. I've got to go in front of you.
Right.
And I'm hoping, A, that they're understanding me. Although Hong Kong's a place where English is pretty prevalent.
Right.
And also, B, that I'm not looking like the biggest asshole in the world. But I would feel worse if I lost my flight than if someone...
I'm right in front of you. I'm taking all my baskets and I'm just jumping. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, people were good about it. However, that was, like, my experience, and I can't even pretend that's bad, because we get to Hong Kong, and we're waiting outside of security.
And all you see is little red faces.
Yep, you start getting the red faces, and we walk up, and we're like, hey, can we get our temporary pass? No, you gotta wait. I was like, oh, okay. They're like, come check back with us about 40 minutes before the flight departs.
Right.
Which is funny because, you know, like, most flights close their doors like 15 minutes before
20.
The flight.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, this is getting a little dicey. So we're waiting there. We're just waiting like, hey, what's going on? Can you tell us what's happening? Are we going to make it? And finally, like, pretty close to the flight's departure, we've got 1 seat available. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if one of us can't make it, neither of us make it. We're going to wait and do this together. As we've talked about, I feel like
you're like a pack animal.
Together. Yeah. But Diambe's like, don't be stupid. Get on the flight. I'll meet you there. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this, but okay. So I end up moving on through, and they had another flight happening in like 2 hours.
Right.
So theoretically, she totally should have made it. But that flight was also full.
I was say because she didn't make it for like another 4 hours.
Yeah, no, it was closer to like 6 hours. So she missed 2 more flights. And that's when you're at the point where you're thinking, do I just buy this ticket? But even then, it's so expensive at that point.
Yeah,
and it's
it
such
was
a risk.
because we did look at prices. I'm like, well, we'll just fly her here, and it was ridiculous.
Yeah, so finally she's
only
able to
be
make
an
it.
hour flight.
Right? No, that was insane. That was a challenging situation. Now, you want to talk about feeling bad? Leave someone at an airport and leave the country.
Good luck.
It's not like I'm leaving her on a domestic flight like, oh, I'm going to leave you in Vegas and I'll catch up with you in LA. It's like, oh, I'm going to leave you in Hong Kong and go on to Thailand.
It's Hunger Games at that point.
It is. So it can only happen with people that like to fly. Because I thought the same thing was about to happen to us in Chicago when I was going with my coworker, but she doesn't non-rev quite as much. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, she does...
So in that case, would you have given her the ability to go first,
yes.
and then you just hang out?
Yeah, because I feel like as long as you get there, you can figure it out from there. All you have to do is, like, get an Uber or a Lyft and get to where you need to be. But if you're stuck, then you're going into, like, logistical planning. I got to figure it all out.
So this is for anybody that's even flying on buddy passes, because I think people think that buddy passes are, like, the holy grail.
No.
And there's just standby. I'm like the standby guy.
It's standby. And what's frightening is that, like, you have some people that fly on buddy passes that know how it goes, and they're
right.
totally okay with it. Mm-hmm. But then you have other people that are treating it like it's a confirmed ticket. Now, here's what's scary, is that, say you give someone a buddy pass, and that person decides to while out because they can't be patient, they can't be calm, and they haven't been fully prepared. You know who gets punished?
Who?
The person who gave a buddy pass, the employee.
Man.
They can lose their flight benefits over that.
So do you think flying non-rev allowed you to do 20 countries, 20-ish, give or take 5?
For sure. I genuinely don't think I could have afforded it. Like, I live a good life, and I feel like I get paid very fairly, but there is no way I would have been going 4 times a year on $2,000 tickets than to have to get hotel and actually pay for vacation.
You have to book within 30 days,
mm-hmm.
and it's a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
But you have to be flexible.
Yeah. No, you have to be. I mean, I think that's probably true of travel in general, but when you're flying non-rev, you do have to understand that you may not always make it to your destination. Now, I think...
like that particular location that
yeah.
you booked for. Because it's happened to you twice. Like, you went to Slovenia. Well, you were supposed to go to Slovenia. You ended up in Switzerland.
Yeah. However, I really can't leave that one to the non-rev gods letting me down. That one was just the airline gods deciding to take out their wrath on me and everyone else going to Slovenia.
Oh, that was because the airline went out of business.
Yeah. Literally, the day of my flight, it's morning time. I've already checked into my flight on Air Canada that's supposed to get me to Switzerland with a stop through Vancouver. And I thought, okay, I'm going to make it. Things are looking good. Green smiles. Green smiles all the way.
Right.
And so I then think, oh, okay, I need to check in on my Adria Airlines flight. But it wasn't letting me check in. However, that's not uncommon for non-rev and standby that you don't get to do online check-in.
Okay.
A lot of times they make you go to the counter. I'm like, this is all good. So everything's fine. And then I realized, have you seen that meme of, like, the dog sitting at the table in a room that's on fire just saying everything's fine?
No.
Oh, it's a good meme. That's exactly what I was.
That's how you felt?
Yes. Because then I'm like, well, it's not even reading that I have a flight right now, but it is showing my return flight. That's really weird. Okay, we're going to get to the bottom of this. And then I find out that my flight was canceled from Zurich to the capital of Slovenia. I'm like, what? I didn't even get an email about this.
I remember you messaged me, and I'm like, damn.
No, with no notification that it was canceling. I'm like, what? So then I'm thinking, okay, we got to figure out our options. Now, I was looking for other things that I could get from Las Vegas to Slovenia, and I'm like, I'm going to make this work. Non-rev, we'll find a way.
Right.
And the challenge is that there's not a lot of flights that will get you there. And I was trying to figure out, is it better to stay in the States and make my way? But I usually find that if you can get to Europe or get close to your destination, you can make it work. So I thought, no, it's fine. I'm going to get to Switzerland. There will be options. Well, I get to Switzerland, and I finally decide to start doing more research. Why did I wait that long? Because And I realize a little article comes through that the airline's in trouble. Now, mind you, Adria Airlines is Slovenia's national airline.
Right.
Now, when your national airline is in trouble, you would assume that the country bails you out.
Right.
Particularly because Slovenia is burgeoning on becoming a place that people really go and travel to.
Uh-huh.
And you think, well, if that airline goes out of business, aren't you like crashing at least your tourism?
Your own economy.
Yeah. Well, I thought, no, for sure this is going to work out for me. They're going to find a way. Because it's not like it's a poor country. It's actually a pretty well-to-do country.
Is it?
Yeah. It's probably one of the most, I don't know, well-off communist countries. I mean, aside from China, but...
Oh, it's communist.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that. USSR.
Yeah, I was going to say, according to what I read it was, and I hope that's right.
Except for the airline went out of business.
Yeah. So then the airline's going out of business, and they're like, it's not doing so well. They're going to cancel like 70% of their flights, but they're going to keep a lot of their flights going. And there was a flight that was leaving 12 hours after the one that I was supposed to take, and I thought, okay, that flight's still going. So transfer over to it, log in, get moved over to that flight. Everything should be okay. Mm-hmm. Now it's like 8 a.m. I get into Zurich, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm so tired. I don't really feel like going out to explore the city. But I don't really want to wait in the airport for like 12 hours. Mm-hmm. But I decide, you know what, just sit down, prop your feet up so that your ankles that are like swollen to the size of bowling balls can like go back to somewhat normal.
Right.
Also, I had like a throbbing pimple, and I just felt like it was really grating on my energy.
The pimple?
Yeah, it was siphoning my energy. So
it's like a boil on your face. It was just growing. Just sucking it out.
Yeah, it was taking my energy and replacing it with real pessimism about my ability to make it to Slovenia. So I thought, nope, just lay down, figure this out. And then I'm thinking, okay, now's a good time. I'm going to go ahead and book my tours because I still have this evening flight. Because I hadn't booked any of my tours in Slovenia, but I thought, well, we're in Europe. We're going to make it. Mm-hmm. Book your tours. Go ahead and book your taxi to pick you up from the airport. Because initially I was just going to do like a shuttle or a bus. But if I'm getting in at 9 p.m., I'm not playing those games. I just want to get in a car and
So did they have Uber?
They didn't. So the person who was coordinating the apartment that I was staying at had given me a number for a taxi and their email address so I could get it all coordinated. Which I was like, oh, thank you. You've just made this a whole lot easier for me. Mm-hmm. So I got all of that done, and then I'm sitting in the airport, and I'm just like hanging, just chilling, charging my phone, and then I get a WhatsApp message from the taxi saying, it looks like your flight tonight is canceled, so we've canceled your taxi reservation.
They knew before you knew.
Oh, man, I could have thrown my phone. I was like, motherfucker. You canceled my flight again.
But didn't, was it WOW or Ryanair? Which one of them went through that?
WOW.
And they were just, canceling everybody, and everybody was stuck in the airport?
Yes.
So was it the same thing? Was everybody just stuck?
Well, that's the thing. Apparently, everyone else got the memo to give it up. Because the person who I was getting my the apartment through, they're like, I think you should find another way other than Adria Airlines. And I was like, I think you should check these flights so that you understand that only Adria Airlines is flying there.
And he's like, I did.
Right?
You are lost.
I know. But it was just such a bad situation. So I'm in the airport, I'm like, my flight is canceled, and I'm starting to freak out. Because I'm like, well, what am I going to do? How do I make it there? And I'm looking at trains and whatnot. Yeah. And there's just no real option. So I contact them and I say, okay, I think I'm going to find some other options. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm going to make it to Slovenia. I just want to cancel this apartment. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, it's really non-refundable, but I'd be willing to give you 50% back. And I'm like, do you not realize that I'm already having a bad enough day and now you're trying to take 50% of my money and this is no fault of my own that I can't make it there?
And that was the booking policy too, right?
Yeah.
Man, I'm calling fraud on them immediately.
Right? So then, right before he cancels it, he calls me on WhatsApp and says, okay, I have someone who drives a shuttle, although it's not really a shuttle, it's like someone's car. And for €50, they will drive from Slovenia to Switzerland tonight and pick you up in the morning and drive you back. And I was like,
For €50 total.
50 euro one way, and then I'd have to do another 50 euro the other way.
So he called his cousin, sister's friend's brother to come take you in their
Pretty
car.
much.
Bro, you want to make some money real fast?
And that's kind of what it was. And I think he didn't want to miss out on this accommodation because if their airline's going out of business, he's not getting anyone else booking with them for a while. What I decided to do is, I was like, I don't think this sounds like a good idea because I've already lost a day in the airport. I was supposed to get there nice and early. Mm-hmm. Well, I've just waited, and then I think I'm going to have to get a hotel in Switzerland overnight. Then I'm going to wake up in the morning, and it's Monday right now. It'll be Tuesday. Take a 7-hour car ride into Slovenia, and that means it's going to be like midday Tuesday, and my flight is going to be on Saturday afternoon, which means now I've got to leave like Friday. So I only get like Tuesday, half a Tuesday.
Yeah,
Wednesday,
I remember
Thursday.
You called and you were just like, I'm kind of stuck here. And I was like, well, why don't you want to go to Switzerland?
But
you get really dedicated to an itinerary.
I was really excited about going to Slovenia. Plus, Switzerland is expensive. It's way more expensive than Slovenia. Like Slovenia
in their communist nature.
Well, it's like at that point, you know where Prague was like 10 years ago where people were discovering how awesome it was?
Right.
But it was still super inexpensive, so you could go there as like a backpacker. Mm-hmm. Except Slovenia has managed to like bypass I don't want to call them like dirty backpackers, but like the not well-to-do backpackers that are there spending like $6 a day.
So something must be expensive there then.
Yeah.
It has to, either the food is expensive, if the accommodations are not expensive,
mm-hmm.
the accommodation's expensive, if the food is not.
Well, I'd put it like this. For Eastern Europe, it's probably one of the more expensive places.
Right.
But for like Western Europe, it's a deal. So say you're from Western Europe, that's a great weekend trip to go to. I would imagine, I'm trying to think of where in the US it's similar to, that you could just go there for like a nice weekend, but also not like breaking the bank weekend.
Maybe like Savannah?
Yeah, like that.
Yeah. Okay, so you made this trip, you already booked things. Did you lose money?
Okay, so what I did is...
You lost money.
I did lose money. I was able to go through and cancel all of like my Airbnb experiences and my Viator tours because I just booked them like literally 30 minutes ago, mm-hmm. which is funny because I waited so long to book them until I thought it was a sure thing, and then it turned out it wasn't a sure thing. Mm-hmm. But I got all my money back on those. Lost 50% on the booking.com, and I am still actually working with the airline trying to get my money back because I tried to get it refunded, and it's...
Really?
Yeah,
they went out of business.
Yeah, so it's just giving me... Like, I'm booking through the Non-Rev booking portal, and it's just giving me an error message. And they're like, well, give it 3 days, and if you don't get your money back in 3 days, then you need to email them. And I was like, does anyone even still work there?
They went out of business. What is everybody missing about this?
I know. So at this point, I just need to contact my bank and call it done so I can actually just be done with that experience. Because they just left me in such a lurch. I was literally just sitting in the airport about on the verge of tears trying to figure out what to do. Like, am I going to spend another $1,000 on hotels in Switzerland? Because that's what the prices were like for the number of days I was looking at. And then I'm like standing in front of a billboard with all the flights that are leaving Zurich. Mm-hmm. I'm like, do any of those look interesting? And a lot of them are places I had been to or were a little too far to make mm-hmm. it work. And then I realized if I'm about to go to one of those places that's that far, I could have just gone to Slovenia and not lost that money if I'm only going to spend like 3 days.
This is true, so you have to make a decision. So you got to be flexible.
Yeah, so the first night I decided just get one night hotel in Switzerland, and we're going to 100% figure it out. Mm-hmm. I decided I was going to stay in Switzerland, but then I thought, oh, do you want to go down to Geneva, or do you want to just stay in Zurich? Mm-hmm. I was like, you know what, just stay in Zurich. It's still a beautiful place. I think in my heart, I had really wanted to go to like a small kind of sleepy town in the way of Bruges, in the way of Bath and London, mm-hmm. but it wasn't to be. Mm-hmm. However, I ended up having an amazing time in Switzerland. The irony is that all of those problems had nothing to do with Non-Rev. I could have bought a confirmed ticket, and I probably would have been more mad because I would have lost more money.
So that's one of the issues with like budget airlines.
Yeah.
Yeah, legacy carriers are not really going out of business. They might merge, but...
Right, and you're not going to have like, 16 hours of notice, if that. I didn't have 16 hours of notice. I had like 10 minutes of notice.
I wonder if they didn't notice you because they probably didn't notify you because you weren't confirmed, but the confirmed passengers must have had a heads up.
I'm certain that they actually got an email that their flight was canceled.
But that's really big. So, I mean, like, imagine you're going on a group trip. Well, we've gone on trips before. You fly non-rev, period.
So
is there like a platform? Like, is there an app or is there, how do you book the tickets? Like,
so you book it through like a third-party website called like My ID Travel. And your company kind of builds like their portal to get to there, and that's actually super easy. The challenge is trying to find out whether a flight looks good. Because now, let's say going to Slovenia, you don't have a lot of options. You pick that one and you just hope for the best. But if I'm just going from here to New York, there's a lot of airlines that will get me from Vegas to New York. It's a matter of finding the one that's not full. Because depending on the time of day you're going. So, like on Facebook, they have a couple of like groups, and you can just say, hey, so-and-so airline, I'm flying from here to there. Right. Can you let me know what it's looking like? But basically, you're left to the mercy of some employee getting on there and helping you out. To no benefit to them. They're just being a good community member for aviation.
So it's like an ecosystem that they've built up for people. Because if you participate and they participate. So do you participate in sharing loads or do you have that?
I do. I'm not as faithful as I should be.
Especially since you only fly non-rev.
Right? I know. I should go on there more often. Like once a week, I'll just kind of be scrolling through and I'll just do a quick search for my airline's name and think, oh, okay, I'll help this person out. But I should be more faithful to it because you don't know how indebted you feel to that person when they've answered you, particularly when things are a bit dicey. And I've had times, so one time I had put a message on there and a bunch of people from that airline actually started commenting. They're like, oh, it looks like it's full right now. However, I'm trying to remember where I was. Oh, I was going into Toronto. And the airline, I think it was on WestJet, they do really quick connection times.
Right.
So they're like, the other flight's coming in a little bit late, so people that are supposed to get on that flight are more than likely not going to make it. So even though it's like showing a red frowny face and there's no open seats, you're going to make it. Yeah. And because if they had just given me the numbers and said, oh, there's like 17 people on standby with no open seats, knowing that I'm not with that airline, I would have felt so screwed and been figuring out another flight option. But because the airline community is so cool in that respect, because people were like really giving in that means, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go ahead and hang out and see what happens, and I made it.
Okay, so you have your booking, which is a third-party portal. You have the Facebook groups, which is kind of how you check your loads and see what the availability is. Because you make the reservation regardless if they have seats or not? Or do you do like both of them at the same time?
So for me, I make the reservation first. And if I'm being honest, I like to say I John Wayne it usually. I've barely just started checking flight loads. Like the first 3 years of me non-revving, I never checked anything. I just figured I'm going to make it. And if I don't, I don't.
So where do you get the smiley faces, unhappy?
That's on the actual booking system.
Oh, okay. So you book it and it's like, okay. Because I don't know, like, Diambi will be like, it's yellow. It's red.
Diambi's a whole different non-rev person. She is on those Facebook groups. Because like, it's on Facebook, so you just see her name pop up. Hey, so-and-so, I'm going here. Which is funny because a bunch of people in the airline industry, so Sharon's like, where's Diambi going now? What is she doing there? Diambi's like, get out of my business. I was like, Diambi, you're putting your business all over for everyone to see it.
Right. She's like, but I just want somebody to tell me I can go. Okay, period.
Yeah. But she's intense about it. For me, I usually don't check. If I'm traveling with someone else, then I will check. So
do you travel non-rev with a confirmed person at the same time? I guess that would be weird.
No, I've done it. Okay. Wait, have I? Okay. Oh, you know what? You guys wouldn't let me non-rev to Nicaragua.
That was going to be silly. Are you kidding me? Can you imagine trying to not... First off, you would have made all your flights. They were empty.
I would have made all my flights, so I could have non-revved.
The ticket was like $500.
I know, but it would have been like $140 if I had non-revved.
I mean, had we known that they were really under siege, we would have let you.
Yeah. So I think in that situation, I bought my ticket. Also going to Cuba, I bought my ticket.
Oh, there was no option.
Well, no, but even going to like Mexico City.
we flew together.
Yeah. Yeah, so
I
I'm
mean?
thinking every other time I've non-revved with other people non-revving. Which is funny because, like, when we went to London, I don't know what made me think, don't check flight loads. We only have 3 of us traveling on another airline.
Oh, because you, Sarah, and Sharon all non-revved.
And we all made it.
Nice.
And it was a full flight, too.
But that's not normal.
Well, no, it was a full flight once we got on there. I think there were some open seats, but looking around, I couldn't find a single open seat once we were on. I thought, I didn't even check on this. This is the non-rev gods wanting me to have an amazing 27th birthday.
I do remember, though, you were trying to go somewhere in Canada, and you could not get the flight. You guys missed, like, 6 flights. It was you and Sharon. You were in Bellevue, and you were trying to go.
Oh, Bellingham. That was Sarah and I.
Okay.
So that's actually my first legit non-rev experience. We were flying to Bellingham, and I think there was an aircraft swap, which meant that they went from a bigger aircraft to a smaller aircraft, and suddenly, like, there just weren't enough seats. And so we were just trying to figure out any option that we could find to get us there. And we, like I said, it was my first non-rev experience, so we didn't find an option. We're like, that's fine. We're just going to drive to San Diego. Still had an amazing time because I had never been to the San Diego Zoo and, like, the safari park. But now, like, knowing what I know now, I could have made it there, no problem.
I mean, but it sounds like it's easy. It's not for the faint of heart.
No. Mm-mm.
And I guess it just depends on your style because you don't really plan. I know our sister, she really plans. But it gives you access to everywhere for affordable prices.
You know what the irony is?
Right.
I plan every other part of my trip, but that's the one thing that I just fly by the seat of my pants on is the flight, whereas Diambe is like, I just want to be spontaneous and see where the wind leads me on a trip, and she's like, am I making my flight? So I kind of love how the roles suddenly reverse.
Who wants to hang out at the airport all day, though?
Well, so most times I haven't. Like,
you spent the night in New York one time overnight.
That wasn't necessarily about non-rev, because a few people did. Okay. They were having really bad weather, which I remember. I don't even remember what airline it was, but the woman at the ticket counter had a lot of personality. Someone walked.
Nice way to say that.
Well, someone walked up to her and said, "Can you tell me why our flights are delayed?" Because all of their flights were delayed that day, and she just stopped, looked over to the left at the window where there was a storm outside. And that was all she did. I was like, damn, that's bold. So I happen to be non-rev, but really a bunch of people kept on getting delayed.
Which makes it push back your eyes.
Yeah, and it makes it worse for me because eventually it was delayed so badly that people were hopping on earlier flights. They're like, oh, well, I'm on this, 9 p.m. flight that's delayed. Can I get moved to the, 5:30 flight so I can get out of here?
So beyond the obvious, what is the most negative part about non-revving?
I mean, the obvious is pretty negative. It's that you might not make it to where you're going.
But you have to have flexibility in planning.
Flexibility.
How often do you lose money on tours, hotels? Is that often?
No, aside from Slovenia, I've never lost money. So
do you do trip protection though? Do they have trip protection? Yeah, people have. If you book through
on non-rev or on tours?
On tours. I mean, because obviously non-rev, you just playing roulette.
Yeah. Well, so that's where you have to be careful with who you're booking through. Mm-hmm. So I really do like booking.com for hotels, not for, I wouldn't do another apartment accommodation because the person who I booked through.
Those are personal homes.
Yeah. I mean, he was trying to be as, flexible as he could without losing money. And I feel like he could have just authorized the full refund because that was not on me. Mm-hmm. But for most hotels. So, when we were trying to get up to Bellingham, we had booked hotels in Vancouver. We were going to, take the bus up, and it just wasn't going to happen for us. So I wrote to Booking.com's customer service and said, hey, I'm in a bad situation. I can't make it onto my flight. And they're like, oh, okay, that's fine. We're just going to refund you. Same day.
So you did it with Booking on the Slovenia, and they said no?
Yeah, they said we need to go through the person whose house it is.
Ah, okay.
So I get the difference between the hotel and the apartment. And again, I'm, in my heart, gonna let go of any bitterness that I feel toward him because he was trying to be nice. He's like, well, if you come back to Slovenia, let me know and I'll give you a deal on the apartment. And I was like, well, why don't you give me a deal now by letting me refund this?
Just give me all my money back because you know I'm not coming. Like, you know there's no way for me to get there.
I would go to Slovenia again. However, they're saying right now that like Ryanair and the other low-cost carriers are about to go in there and swoop into that market that Adria just left. I was like, that was a bad idea to let your national airline go down like that.
Qantas almost did that as well in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
They were suffering.
That's so unfortunate. But then you do have, Virgin Australia. So you have options for that.
You do, but you don't want your national airline to fucking go tits up.
No, totally not. So, non-rev, like, I think it's mainly benefits and not a lot of drawbacks, but the drawbacks are pretty serious.
Right, because I can't think, I mean, as long as you just can plan and be flexible,
Mm-hmm.
have good credit cards that, refund your stuff, don't fraud alert your card all the time.
No, I wouldn't do that for a lot. I'm going to do it for the airline that's not trying to give me my money back because they decided to go out of business.
Right.
That's not on me. And I might just check in about that hotel or like the apartment just to see what can be done. Because again, none of that was on me.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be there. I'm not going to say I didn't want to be in Switzerland because I ended up having an awesome time there. But I didn't want to spend Swiss money. That's what
So
I didn't
out of
do.
your 30 trips, how many did you non-rev?
Okay. So 30 of them, like 5 of them I did before I really started work, maybe like 8 of them I did before I started working with an airline, and then 2 I did with you that were confirmed. So about 20. Although you flew confirmed to Thailand, so I did non-rev while you were flying confirmed. We just weren't on the same flight.
We flew separate, though.
Yeah.
From separate places as well.
Well, so it'd be awkward, especially with you, because if I'm flying non-rev, that means that I'm going to definitely be in economy. Because they do reciprocity as far as, like, what your airline has. So if your airline has first class and then the person you're flying has first class, mm-hmm. and you guys have reciprocity that someone non-rev can get first class, then it's fine. Mm-hmm. But mine doesn't. So that means that I can only fly in the class that my airline has, which is economy. Mm-hmm. So I'm always going to fly economy. So if, like, you were flying confirmed and you're like, I'm going to go hang out in business, I'd be like, okay, can you send some food back for me? That's all it'd be like.
Well, I'm happy that you're able to do it.
It's a benefit. It is one of the best things, and it's really opened up the world for me because, I don't know. I'm sure there's someone out there who's traveling like I travel, and I would love to talk to them and see how they're doing it if they don't work in an airline space, other than being independently wealthy.
# non-rev gods.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed.